Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker, and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about something pretty important. We're going to talk about urgency. We all have this sense of urgency that is actually working against us. So I'm so happy to be talking about this today. And Anne-Marie Anderson is with me, and she's going to give us some great insight into that. She is a 3-time Emmy award-winning broadcaster, keynote speaker, and author. And as she walked through ESPN's doors fresh out of college, she embarked on a career that led her into the boardrooms and locker rooms of some of the most successful franchises in sports. So we're going to hear, I'm sure, some interesting stories as well, utilizing the methods that observed through the behind closed doors coverage of high-performing coaches, athletes, and executives. Anne-Marie has applied their penchant for taking bold and sometimes surprising risks to her own personal and professional life. So without further ado, I'm welcoming Anne-Marie to our show here.
Hi, thank you for having me, Penny.
Yeah. So I'm excited. That must be such an interesting, right out of college, right into those locker rooms and witnessing some great coaching. What's something that stood out for you that maybe changed your life?
Well, in terms of coaching, what I noticed is that the really great coaches focus on the one goal, the one thing they want, and anything that doesn't interfere with that goal, they leave out of the equation. Phil Jackson, who coached the Bulls and then the Lakers, was a master at this. And when I coach executives in corporations, a lot of times there's this need to fit everybody into a box or do it the company way. And Phil Jackson, for example, didn't do that. He had the one goal. And if somebody is meeting those goals, whatever it takes to weave that individuality into a powerful group culture was something I saw over and over again in successful enterprises.
Go figure. Focus.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the focusologist, so I get it.
Yeah.
I also get how hard it is and why it needs to be a regular practice so that we get used to saying no and pushing off things that really aren't on the core path. Then we'll get into the urgency side. But thinking about that, if I put on my guest hat and I was listening, I'd say, okay, but for coaching on a sports team, so does that mean the ultimate goal is to win the football game or to win the ring? Like, is that the ultimate goal that they're working towards? And it's easier said than done. There's so many pieces that need to happen in order for that to happen. So is it really one thing?
Yeah. So here's a great example of it, I think, that you can take from a sporting world and perhaps look at the bigger picture. So Phil Jackson, in his final year with the Bulls, there's actually a docuseries about it called The Last Dance. Some of your listeners may have seen that. But their goal was to win a championship. Pretty standard, right? They knew this was their last year together, the Bulls. This is Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, those kind of Bulls. So when they got to about January, mid-ish season, approaching the middle of the season, Dennis Rodman, very famously, common story, said to Phil Jackson, I need a break. I need a vacation. And nobody takes a vacation in the middle of the NBA season.
Right.
So Jackson said, well, what do you need? Meanwhile, Michael Jordan was like, yo, if anybody needs a vacation, it's me. Like, I need a vacation. And Phil Jackson said, no, but we are going to give Dennis one. And he was like, why? How is that, right? Individual needs require different things. And he explained, Phil Jackson, to Michael Jordan, that Rodman doesn't need basketball. He really doesn't. He was a unique character, had a lot of different interests. He doesn't need basketball. But we need Rodman in order to win the championship. Specifically, we need him to rebound the ball. Mm-hmm. Now, you, Michael Jordan, you need basketball. It's your identity. It's your love. You have to do it. But if Rodman becomes unhappy and quits and walks away, which he very easily could do, it goes against our goal of winning a championship. He's the best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And so Phil Jackson gave Rodman 2 debaucherous days in Vegas in the middle of the season that would have killed most of us. And when he came back, Rodman was renewed. Most athletes, especially if you let them go to Vegas for 2 days, they come back dragging. But Jackson knew this was his energy. And the very first morning back, Rodman was full of energy, leading everybody in sprints. And so he renewed Rodman's energy to keep going towards their goal. Individuality. If you had done it for anybody else, it wouldn't have worked.
So what I love about that, I just wrote the book called The Reset Mindset. That reset mindset is about that ability to dynamically reassess based on the situation and the individual. So I would say that a lot of the best coaches, including what you're describing to me with Phil Jackson, have a reset mindset with that ultimate goal on the top of their agenda in their sight. And then they're looking to what does it take? What do we need in this situation for this individual so that they can dynamically reassess as it goes. So that's a great example of that. So I love that.
I love the title of your book, The Reset Mindset, because that perfectly sums up what I have witnessed throughout my career in successful organizations and also what I've lived. I think for a lot of people, there's this sense of permanence. I am such and such that can be labeled that way. But really, the innovators, they label themselves maybe an innovator, just constantly resetting. Is this still working for me? You had mentioned that I'm an author of a book called Cultivating Audacity, and I have a reevaluation loop at the end of that book for exactly this, because I don't expect people to stay the same. I don't want to stay the same. It's the worst thing that can happen to me. I don't have FOMO, but I have a fear of staying the same. And so I love the reset mindset.
That's great. I love that. Fear of staying the same.
Boss, I call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's a good fear to have because staying the same is zero growth. It's stagnation. And we're here to grow. Things are changing all the time. So it's almost impossible. You have to work really hard to stay stagnant, right? To stay the same.
Yeah, you have to let every single fear and barrier you have crush you. And there are people who do that. And you nailed it. The only thing you get that's certain out of fear of staying the same, I should say, is you ensure that no growth is possible. For sure. If you stay the same, you have just guaranteed yourself no opportunity for growth.
I love that. And I do want to talk about urgency. We're getting there, but I'm just so excited to hear about these other things. So tell me about that loop that you were talking about. At the end of your book, you said you have a review.
Oh, the reevaluation loop?
A reevaluation loop. So tell me about that, because my reset mindset, right, that's all about continually reevaluating. So I want to hear how you frame that and tell me.
Sure. I love hearing other people's ideas too for these things. So in the book, Cultivating Audacity, I'm trying to get people to push, right, to do whatever it is that's been holding them. But first you have to identify your barriers. And I take you through the 4 barriers about getting to where you want to go. At the end of the book, I talk about a reevaluation loop, because wherever it is that you want it to go, or whatever it is that you want it to do, or your relationship or whatever, again, it's evolving and changing all the time. So in the reevaluation loop, I'm breaking down, is this still working for me? And I separate it in 3 different categories. I separate it in professional or career, then health and fitness, and then relationships, not just romantic relationships, friendships, any kind of mentorship. And there's a certain quiz that you will take to see where your level of satisfaction is. And what I tell people is that you ideally don't have to overhaul every time you do this. It should be minor tweaks.
Yeah.
But sometimes, as soon as I wrote it, Penny, to be honest with you, I took it. I wrote the assessment and then I took it. And my career and professional life came out great. Things are going terrific. My health and fitness, good. I'm taking care of myself. My relationships, they weren't handling. I wasn't putting time into my friendships of people I really loved, because I was so engaged with my career in terms of writing the book. And I check in once in a while, but I realized I needed to put more connection into my relationships. And that's how I developed a different concept called the front row. And the interaction, we talk globally about a loneliness epidemic right now. Our Surgeon General mentioned a loneliness epidemic. Part of it is because you can do everything by yourself, right? You can order meals and groceries to your door. You can talk to ChatGPT for ideas. So the front row is another concept where it is people who have their own thing. They will push you, check in with you, lift you up, and grow. And it's actually identifying and telling them, hey, Penny, I'm going to write a book. I know you've written a book. Would you be in my front row during this process? If you accept, right? We have a connection where I can call you and say, I got writer's block and nothing's flowing. Can I throw this idea past you? Or you, knowing you have a role in my life, can check in and say, hey, you had mentioned you wanted to have the first 4 chapters done by March. I'm just checking in. How's that going? But there's this investment. So we're fixing social connection and relationships. And what I tell people when they choose their front row, it's probably not your mom. It's probably not your best friend, because they want you to stay safe. They don't want you to get hurt. They don't want to see you fail by their terms. So your front row are people that can cheer you on, help you, give you real feedback without jealousy or competition.
I love it. I love the wording. Sometimes language is so inviting, right? A concept that whether it's new or whether it's been around for centuries in another form, just putting it in a language that's so relatable and accessible makes a huge difference. So I just love that language, the front row. It's really powerful. So I'm a firm believer, right? We have to surround ourselves with people who challenge us.
When you tell them, will you be in my front row? And I actually use that language, it helps with the investment, right? So that now they know they actually have a role.
Well, they're making a commitment to you and you're making a commitment to them. So you better check in and make them a part of things. Otherwise, they're not really part of your front row because you're not giving them, you're not extending that to them. So it goes both ways. I really like that. So let's come back around to one of the barriers. Sure. So I don't know if this is one of the 4 barriers that you've listed there, but distractions are something that I talk a lot about. And I see urgency, our sense of urgency where everything's urgent, especially as an entrepreneur. Like, I think that we have this gene, this urgency gene that just makes us feel like, oh, you want something that's outside the scope? No problem. I'll have it to you tomorrow morning. And then you work all night to get it done. So we have this sense of urgency. You have something called the urgency fallacy. So tell me a little bit about your ideas around urgency and this fallacy.
Sure. The 4 barriers are fear, time, money, and your inner critic. And the urgency fallacy falls under time, because one of the reasons people don't do the thing or make the move that they want to make is because they don't have time, but they'll do it when they have time, right? And we never have time.
Never.
When I've got time, I'm going to do it. Time never happens. And as you mentioned, this is hamster wheel. And of course, when I started writing my book, right, I'm a mother of 3 kids. I'm a full-time broadcaster. I'm a keynote speaker. And I decided to write a book in addition.
What the hell, right?
Right? Yeah. Here's the thing. I got this. I'm going to carve out time. And I'm going to get up at 4:30 every morning and write. And I did. And it sucked. It was horrible. I mean, I was exhausted by 3 p.m. every day. I wasn't doing any of my other jobs the way I wanted to. And I really wasn't getting that much done. What worked for me is carving out time during the day. I still needed an hour towards this, but I kind of made lists of things that are urgent and things that are important. Things that are urgent, right? Answering an email, signing the permission slip, make dinner, all those things give a sense of satisfaction because they can be accomplished pretty quickly and without a lot of thought. And we feel
we can check them off, and then that dopamine goes, woo, you did so
well. Yeah, love checking it off the list. Things that are important, like writing a book, starting a new business, moving cross country, if you're trying, or leaving a relationship, require more time and careful thought. And they don't necessarily have an impending deadline, which makes it go on and on. But there are real consequences if we don't accomplish them. And so once you make a list of what's urgent and what's important, for me, the fallacy is almost anything urgent, Penny, can wait 15 minutes. Almost anything urgent. You can wait 15 to respond to that email. Most things, 15 minutes you can wait. I've got teenagers, my door, Mom, I'm hungry. I'm like, same. My door is locked because I'm doing something right now for this 15 minutes. People do it different ways. Some people do 3 blocks of 20. 4 blocks of 15. I was coaching somebody who wanted to become a realtor, but he didn't have time to study for the license. And so he worked out with his wife while the kids were in the bath. He had a half-hour block, and they took another half-hour block earlier in the day. But it is basically putting a plug, things that are urgent, knowing that you will come back to them very soon. That's the key, very soon, while you take 15 minutes to brainstorm, and then my alarm goes off 4 times a day. Otherwise, you make no progress because urgent never ends. Never.
It isn't. Urgent will crowd out important and impactful every time when we make that a priority. And, I think it's the word because we define it as urgent, but most of those things, actually, I call them false urgencies. They're not actually urgent.
Right.
Your child is hungry. They're not dying. Get your butt over to the refrigerator and have an apple until we're ready to eat or something like that, right? Exactly. Or make dinner if they're old enough.
And it comes most of the time, it's not like life or death. You have to, again, I'm not saying let your kid bleed out on the floor. That's different, right? That's an emergency.
That's an emergency and can't wait 15 minutes. But
yeah.
But most of the time, right, if we look at our day-to-day, that's not the case. And most of us are not brain surgeons or firefighters or, right, we are, but not the real sense of running into a burning building.
Exactly.
So I always say, too, that I love what you said. So you write down your urgencies or whatever, but you can also challenge them.
Yes.
Are these really urgent? Can I delegate this to someone else? So I think we need to really look at how we define an urgency, especially for people who work in teams. People have different senses of what's urgent to them, right? Because it can be very personal. So we need to be better at sharing our definition of urgency so that we can make sure that we're getting rid of the things that are not truly urgent and they can be planned when they can be done.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, can they be delegated? I put that into the money barrier, right? Fear, time, money, and your inner critic. Because what I learned, people have all different money stories, and I take you through that in the book and examining them. But for me, I held money tightly. I just like to save money. And I was killing myself, back to the example of writing the book and this and that, doing the contracts for the speaking engagements and all these things, until I paid attention to how much time I was putting into things that really weren't giving me any satisfaction. They were taking away from what's important. Mm-hmm. And then what I needed was more energy, right? I needed more energy. I was able to exchange some money for an assistant to delegate those tasks to, which gave me more energy to devote towards what's important. And to me, having an assistant felt too luxurious, pretentious. Like, what do I need an assistant for? As soon as I did that, things started flowing much more freely because I was able to get more creative with the writing process, with the way I was writing my keynotes. So there's a challenge because time and money are twins, in my opinion. You have to know how much you have before you budget it, both of those things. And you can exchange energy between the two to give yourself more of what you love.
Absolutely. So I hope that you guys who are listening, you'll really review where might it make sense, bring someone in to support you. And what's interesting is it doesn't cost a lot of money. Today, because everybody can work from wherever around the world, you can get an admin assistant for relatively inexpensive that can do some of those things that you're not good at, that take a long time for you, right? Just because I'm going to create a flyer, that might take me a day or longer to create a flyer, might take someone else an hour, knows how to use the tools and has a more creative sense. So we really need to challenge those things that we're doing ourselves to see if there couldn't be other people who could do it faster and better.
Yeah. And it can apply to your personal life as well. When my 3 kids were little, I got talked into hiring an au pair. And I was like, but I want to raise my kids. I want to be with my kids. And what we settled upon was she would prep the food for cooking because I like to cook. So I would say, hey, could you chop this onion? Could you do this? Could you do this? Do this? So she would do that. I would go pick up the kids, walk them to school. I'd come in, everything would be ready. I'd make dinner. After dinner, I was able to walk away with the kids and do bath, book, and bed because I wasn't cleaning up the dishes. So for me, again, that's a different kind of assistant. It gave me more of what I love, which was being with my children. Yeah. So it can be applied to anywhere. If you don't like cleaning your house, maybe you have enough money to have somebody else clean your house and use the time you would have towards creating something new or better.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you create a job wheel with your family and everybody pitches in and does something. And then it
Yeah.
also goes faster, right?
Yes.
Sometimes as women, we feel like we have to do it all and we don't.
Yes. And not only are things going faster, but you're setting up some pretty darn good life skills.
Absolutely.
Pretty great life skills. So you're actually doing some superior parenting and getting things done and really preparing your kids.
I love that. So time has really flown by. What didn't I ask you yet that you'd like to share with the audience about anything, about your book, Cultivating Audacity, or about urgency or anything?
I think the thing I want people to know is that fear that they feel, believe it or not, you can make friends with that fear and use it as a guide and lean into it. The key is to fail first, fail often. So many times, and I'll go back to that example of the friend who wanted to be a realtor that I was coaching. And I said, what are you afraid of? And he said, I'm afraid of failing the test. So the first thing I had him do was go fail the test. And he was like, what? On purpose? And I said, well, you told me you're not ready. But if you're so afraid to fail the test, just take the test, which he did. And he failed. And then once he survived that, we could work out how he could study more. He took the test again, failed again. But this time he wasn't devastated. He's like, okay, I need more of this, and went back. I think people are so paralyzed by that fear of failure. And it's just a matter of recalibrating our relationship with rejection, with failure, to see it as guideposts. And believe me, I'm somebody who had a lot of fear, but I started to get into practicing setting myself up, applying for jobs that there was no way I could get, so I could get that rejection and kind of numb it out a little bit. And it hurt less and less. And then I was able to really focus upon the goals.
Yeah, I love that, because I talk about failure isn't failure, it's feedback if you use it as such, if you use it as progress. And if you think about it, him taking the test right away gave him an understanding of what's on the test and how to take the test. And so it became, right, we shorten our learning cycles when we just go ahead and push through the fear and fail a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Or stumble or misstep or whatever you want to call it. As long as you take something away from it and you take those insights and you apply it going forward, then it's not failure in my book.
No, apply for the job. Everybody always talks about the glass ceiling, especially for women, right? The glass ceiling. And for me, that isn't the issue that I see. I see a sticky floor where people are stuck, like waiting for the right moment to apply. When I have all the credentials that I need, when my life is all perfectly lined up, they're stuck to the floor, waiting. And I think that's the bigger obstacle than any kind of a glass ceiling.
100% agree, right? They're afraid to ask, afraid to take action, to step forward. Totally agree. Wow. Bam, drop the mic, the sticky floor. I love it. That's the name of your next book.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom. It's been incredible. Tell people where they can reach you.
Sure. My website's always the easiest way, AnneMarieAnderson.com. There's an E on the end of Anne. The book's called Cultivating Audacity. You can find me on Instagram, also either by Anne Marie Anderson TV or Cultivating Audacity. I do respond to inquiries on the website, so they'll come directly to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a great conversation.
And thank you all for being here. There was a lot of really great little bombs that were dropped, and I hope that you got them all. And there was a lot actually in here. So I want you to be thinking about what action can you take away from today's lessons that Anne-Marie brought us. One being really identifying those urgencies and being able to put them off. They're not really that urgent. Use your time blocks and how can you really challenge those urgencies so that you can stay focused on what matters. Looking at where are your other distractors, your sticky floor. No matter whether you're a man or a woman, you may be stuck in a sticky floor. So examine that. So take some time to reflect on some of those things. And remember that this is all a feedback loop that you can reevaluate and come back again and again to reprioritize, reposition. And that's the name of the game. That's how you get more successful and faster. So thank you all for being here. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes. just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.